Mercury in the ninth house of a natal chart is akin to placing a high-speed processor inside a vast, borderless library. In astrology, Mercury represents the intellect, communication, and the mechanics of the mind, while the ninth house, traditionally ruled by Sagittarius and Jupiter, governs higher learning, philosophy, long-distance travel, and the search for the truth. When the planet of the mundane mind enters the house of the divine mind, the result is an individual whose cognitive appetite is practically insatiable. The architect of big ideas. For those with this placement, the mind does not function well in a vacuum or a cubicle. Mercury here is restless, it demands a panoramic view of life. While Mercury in the third house, its natural home, focuses on the how of the immediate environment, gathering facts, running errands, and chatting with neighbors, Mercury in the ninth house is obsessed with the why. These individuals aren't just interested in the news, they want to understand the socio-political undercurrents and historical cycles that created the news. There is a natural penchant for synthesis. You likely possess the ability to take disparate pieces of information and weave them into a cohesive philosophical framework. This makes you a big-picture thinker. However, the shadow side of this gift is a tendency to overlook the fine print. In your rush to reach a grand conclusion or a moral epiphany, you might find the boring details of daily life, like taxes, schedules, or precise instructions, to be tedious distractions. The eternal student and global citizen. Education is rarely just a means to an end for a ninth house Mercury, it is a lifelong lifestyle. This placement often indicates someone who remains an eternal student, whether they are formally enrolled in a PhD program or simply spending their weekends devouring non-fiction and documentaries. There is often a profound interest in foreign cultures, languages, and belief systems. Communication for you is a bridge to the other. You may find that your most stimulating conversations happen with people who grew up in entirely different worlds than your own. This placement frequently points to someone who might live abroad, work in a field involving international relations, or act as a translator, not just of languages, but of ideas. You are the person who can explain Western philosophy to an Eastern audience, or vice versa, with relative ease. The power of the word, law, religion, and ethics. Because the ninth house governs the legal and moral structures of society, Mercury here often creates a powerful orator or a persuasive writer. You likely have a strong moral compass and a desire to use your intellect to advocate for what you believe is right. This makes for excellent lawyers, professors, ministers, or social activists. Your speech tends to be pedagogical, you don't just talk, you teach. When you speak, you do so with a sense of authority and conviction that can be incredibly inspiring. However, you must be wary of righteous intellect. Because you see the world through a lens of grand principles, there is a risk of becoming dogmatic or preachy. The challenge is to remember that Mercury is a trickster and a messenger, meant to stay fluid, rather than getting stuck in a rigid ideological fortress. Abstract reasoning and intuition. The ninth house is a succedent house of the fire element, giving Mercury a visionary quality. Your thought process is less about linear logic and more about flashes of insight. You might find that you arrive at conclusions through a leap of faith or a sudden intuitive grasp of a complex system. In your personal life, travel is often a mental reset. For you, a trip to a foreign city isn't just a vacation, it's a cognitive expansion. New landscapes provide the data your Mercury needs to recalibrate its worldview. You think most clearly when you are in motion or when you are looking at a distant horizon. Conclusion: the quest for meaning. Ultimately, Mercury in the ninth house is on a quest for meaning. You are not content with superficiality or small talk. Your mind is a vessel designed to navigate the deep waters of existence, seeking the underlying laws that govern the universe. By balancing your expansive vision with a grounded attention to detail, you become a powerful bridge between the mundane world and the realm of higher wisdom, capable of translating complex truths into a language that inspires others to look upward. When Mercury resides in the ninth house, the sign it inhabits dictates the flavor of your quest for truth and the specific style of your intellectual journey. The fire signs, the visionaries. Aries, your mind is a pioneer. You pursue higher knowledge with a sense of urgency and may be prone to intellectual crusades. You prefer bold, original ideas and have little patience for dusty traditions. Leo, communication is a performance. You approach philosophy and education with a creative, dramatic flair. You likely seek to be an influential authority or a shining example of your beliefs. Sagittarius, home placement, the ultimate seeker. Your mind is exceptionally broad, restless, and focused on total freedom of thought. You are the quintessential wanderer philosopher, though you may struggle with focus. The earth signs, the pragmatic scholars. Taurus, you seek the truth through things that are tangible and enduring. Your belief systems are often conservative or slow to change, and you value education that offers practical, real-world value. Virgo, the most detailed of the ninth house placements. You don't just want the big picture, you want to categorize every part of it. You excel at technical research, linguistics, or the science of religion. Capricorn, your approach to higher learning is structured and ambitious. You value tradition and respect established hierarchies. You likely use higher education as a ladder to achieve social status or professional mastery. The air signs, the intellectual synthesizers. Gemini, a hyperactive mind that wants to know a little bit about everything. You are the perpetual student of the world, likely speaking multiple languages or juggling several different philosophical interests at once. Libra, you seek truth through the lens of justice and relationships. Your intellectual focus is often on ethics, law, and diplomacy. You are the person who can see the validity in every side of a theological debate. Aquarius, the rebel intellectual. Your views are often unconventional, futuristic, or fringe. You are drawn to humanitarian causes and likely possess a highly original, even idiosyncratic, worldview. The water signs, the intuitive philosophers. Cancer, your beliefs are deeply tied to your heritage, roots, and emotions. You learn best through stories, history, and nostalgia. For you, truth is something that must be felt as much as it is understood. Scorpio, you aren't interested in the light, you want the shadows. Your mind dives into the mysteries of life, death, and the occult. You are a psychological detective, seeking the hidden motives behind human belief. Pisces, the mystic mind. Your intellect is porous and imaginative, often blurring the lines between logic and spirituality. You see the world through a lens of universal compassion and poetic symbolism. The transit of Mercury through the ninth house is a period of mental expansion, acting as a cosmic invitation to step out of the weeds of daily minutiae and look toward the horizon. While Mercury's natal placement describes a lifelong temperament, its transit is a temporary software update that shifts your focus toward the big picture, higher learning, and the pursuit of a broader perspective. The widening lens. When Mercury enters the ninth house, the monkey mind stops obsessing over the grocery list and starts wondering about the meaning of life. This is a time when your intellectual curiosity reaches a fever pitch. You may find yourself suddenly interested in topics that previously felt too abstract: philosophy, sociology, law, or spirituality. It is an excellent window for beginning a new course of study, returning to university, or simply falling down a rabbit hole of research that changes how you view the world. Communication as a teaching tool. During this transit, your style of communication becomes more pedagogical. You aren't just exchanging information, you are exchanging ideas. You may find yourself playing the role of the mentor or the student more frequently. It is a potent time for public speaking, publishing, or sharing your opinions on a larger platform. Because the ninth house is the domain of the truth, you might feel a stronger urge to speak your mind with more conviction. However, Mercury's influence here can sometimes lead to a preachy tone. The goal of this transit is not to win an argument, but to engage in a dialectic that expands everyone's understanding. Travel and the global mindset. The ninth house governs long-distance travel and foreign cultures. With Mercury, the planet of movement and logistics, transiting this area, your thoughts often turn toward the elsewhere. This is a classic time for planning an international trip, applying for a visa, or engaging in business with people from different cultural backgrounds. If physical travel isn't possible, mental travel takes its place. You might find yourself devouring foreign films, learning a new language, or connecting with people online who offer a totally different worldview. The foreign becomes fascinating rather than intimidating. Navigating the shadow, the detail gap. The challenge of Mercury in the ninth house is the tension between the forest and the trees. Because you are so focused on grand visions and long-term goals, the mundane details of life can slip through the cracks. This is a transit where you might dream up a brilliant 10-year plan but forget to pay your electric bill. Furthermore, because Mercury moves quickly, this transit can sometimes create a know-it-all attitude. You might feel so enlightened by a new piece of philosophy that you become impatient with those who don't see the world through your new lens. Summary of the transit. Ultimately, Mercury's passage through the ninth house is a mind-opening experience. It encourages you to question your dogmas. Is your current worldview still serving you? Seek higher ground. Look at your problems from 30,000 feet to find solutions that weren't visible from the ground. Connect the dots. Synthesize everything you've learned recently into a cohesive story. It is a time of eureka moments and intellectual breakthroughs, reminding you that the world is much larger and far more interesting than your immediate surroundings suggest. Subscribe, like, and share.